Warhorse Overland here, going over my personal trailer, which is a stud with the Expedition tongue box. I've made a few changes, so the things I'll show in this video is stuff that I personally did, which represents, what you as the user can do in terms of, customizations. And, I'll cover the things that are add-ons and mods from, the build fabrication standpoint. But just wanted to provide an update here because I use these trailers quite frequently over the summer, winter time, etc. So always, that's the best way to always perfect these things. So starting off, I have a rear door mounted spare. So those come with these beefy upgraded hinges. These things are more than capable, but for a few bucks more, why not just be extra sure? And it's extremely rigid. I've hung on this thing with no issues. Rear air K-jacks, of course. I have pump for a water tank, so one thing to know on the water tanks, I'm doing away with this fill spout. Reason being, it's kind of redundant because you can just hook here and reverse fill with just one simple $2 adapter that I'll provide. So again, the top thing's kind of redundant because you can't, it's not like you can pour into it because it does have a check valve on it. So all water tanks will come standard with just a reverse fill there. One thing that I added, that's something that I can add, or you can always add, is just this E-track mount. So I'm a big time elk hunter, so when I come back to camp, usually the ground's either wet, dirty, nasty, and it's just a really nice place to hang my bag. So these E-track mounts, never forget about them because they're super handy, and I integrate those a lot into my builds. So you have E-track spare tire mounts rated for a lot of poundage. I do have a rear swing out, roof rack swing out, just here with just this nut, and it's nice because I can keep my grill, my chairs, table, anything up there, just really usable space. This is an adjustable roof rack, but it is set to the lowest position just because of my garage height. But I like the adjustable roof racks because, if there's ever a situation where, I don't know, I grew 5 inches, potentially would, raise that up just to give me more space. But stock studs with just a stock roof rack. I mean, I'm just damn near 6 feet tall, so close, but no, I'm not 6 foot, but I can still fit under this awning super easily. I don't have to crouch or anything like that. Another thing here is, so the electrical stuff, if you see electrical stuff, I can drill holes for it. I can weld conduit for you, which I'll show you. I can weld other wiring management devices, but I don't wire. I just don't. Trailers come standard with wired lights and brakes, and that's about the extent of my electrical knowledge. So I added because I have a battery in here, so I added this input so I can just add shore power, trickle charger. And I have this little dongle that goes into these cable glands, all sealed, watertight. And what that does is I have a power strip in there. So because of my inverter, I can power that. And here's that adapter for the reverse fill, Home Depot item, $3 or whatever. All trailers have the steps, handy for taking down the tent, etc. One thing that I've added is this molly panel I got from Built Right Industries that I just kind of hooked up here with the Rotopack bolt pattern. And this bag, I have like my toiletries, bug spray, sunscreen, etc. And I put my cool tomahawk there for slamming steaks in. Oh, here's a good point. So dry weight, or I'm sorry, the total weight on this is 2660. So as you see it right now, this thing weighs 2,600 pounds. With a 3,500 pound HD axle, I still have plenty of payload to mount a dirt bike. One thing I also did on this trailer that I can do is I upgraded the timber and springs. So I'm going to make a separate video on this, which if you're interested, I'd implore you to watch. But essentially, these are the stock springs. These are, you can kind of see they're pretty bendable. These are the upgraded springs. So it's a thicker gauge rubber, and it's a really easy swap for me to do for you while I'm building the trailer. It does take some labor, but I am going to offer a mod where I can do that. Reason being is with the stock springs, even though it's well within the payload, it did sag quite a bit. And these springs have memory to them. So I decided to go with the thicker springs. And what it gave me, I went with, so there's 45 gauge, 55 gauge, 65 gauge, and 75 gauge. These are 65 gauge. I bought a set of 65 and I bought a set of 55. I put the 55 gauge in, and it raised my trailer up 1.5 inches and gave me the sort of stance that I wanted. And in terms of rideability, I see absolutely no difference in rideability. Timbren warns that you'll have a super rough ride after installing thicker gauge springs, but honestly, if I would have known how this rides with the 55 gauge, I would have just went with the 65 gauge just right off the bat, because I still have plenty of room for garage clearance. So that's something that I can add on any Timbren system trailer. Leaf springs are always going to raise the trailer up higher. The leaf springs are leaf springs. They're super tough, durable systems. Timbrens, you kind of got to play with it depending on your use case and depending on how much you want to load your trailer down, how close you want to get to max payload. That's when we should have the discussion of what springs we should put in there. Because while it is within payload, as I mentioned, it will sag, and it's just, you know, not ideal. Expedition tongue box. Oh, I'm still putting my seal in there, so forgive me. Molly panel mounted on the top. So if you buy a Molly panel, I can pretty much put them anywhere you want. I have one here mounted on the top. Reason being is I'll probably put like my diesel heater up there. But I have solar on the roof of my tent. This is the Tough Stuff Overland Stealth, the aluminum top one. So I have two 200 watt solar panels up there, so I got a lot of power. But you could easily mount a solar panel here. I have a build right now where I'm doing just that. Propane mount, 2 fuel cans. You can see just Expedition tongue box adds an absolute ton of space. It just does a great job of really tying in, you know, multiple people, multiple days. Just really adds that a good amount of space without adding an absolute ton of weight. Because as I mentioned, this whole thing you see here is 2,600 pounds. Now I'll probably put another 400 in it, and I still have 500 pounds on my axle still. So totally good. Again, side toolbox on this side as well. You see I put my pots and pans, just random cooking stuff. I kind of want to put all my nasty cooking stuff and just leave it in this box. This is a larger buyer's toolbox. There's a smaller one. Smaller one basically like is flush with the top of the fender. Now what I did, I have a cooler slide. This is the standard cooler slide that I offer. This is a huge cooler, so plenty big enough. But what I added was this inverter. So when I mentioned I don't do the electrical, but I can put in the conduit, like, so here's the conduit, and I can put in these electrical grommets as well. So I have them all the way around, but you just tell me where you want them, and I can tack them on there for you. Just a really slick way of managing wiring. Same with the strut channel up here. Just use the nuts and bolt any light you want on here. But I have this inverter. That's what powers. I can plug it in here, or I can use that power strip that I showed you that I installed. I also have all my lights centrally located here. My light switch with another USB. I have lights on the side, internal mounted lights. I have this light on the back that I kind of MacGyvered. I think it looks slick. It works. And then I have another light on the side. So really easy to do if you have the conduit in place. It's a super easy DIY thing. So I highly recommend having me do that if that's what you want. Like, here's more internal conduit. You know, I put it everywhere. I didn't use that one, but whatever. But you can see just how handy it is. So when I talk to you when you fill out your build form and I contact you, just we'll go over that and I'll spell that out and make sure it's in there. Another light here. This is the stud specific rear drawer slide. So the rear drawer slides you'll see, you can put them on the cooler side, driver and passenger, but there's a stud specific one that I custom made. Reason being is it fits the format perfectly. So I have a generator here, and yes, that was included in my when I weighed it. I have like all my cooking stuff, you know, in these nice bins. That just always stays with the trailer. I just never have to take it out. Molly panel on the rear with the door. So you don't need the molly panel if you want a rear fold table. These strut channel members serve as the mount for both the molly panel and the table. So you don't have to have one or both. You don't have to have one to have both. And here I'll show you what my electrical setup looks like. I have still plenty of room for other stuff. You can see those solar panels are just cranking. So I have a 200 amp hour lithium, and then these are two 12-gallon water tanks. Now I have them daisy chained like that because if I ever want more space, I can just take one out and just deal with the less water capacity. But even with 24 gallons of water, I still have plenty of room to mess around with electrical stuff for extra storage, etc. So, but again, yeah, what made this really easy was just having the conduit. So I can't offer it like standard because everyone's going to be different. It would just be impossible. I'd have to put it everywhere and it'd just take forever. Yeah, seeing if I missed anything. I just run a standard coupler. Lock and rolls are great. I highly recommend them. I'm actually going to switch mine over to the lock and roll, but I've always used the 2-inch couplers, and I put them through some crazy stuff, and I've never had an issue. So don't be worried if you don't want to go with it right away. More E-Track stuff. So I can put these things anywhere. Awning mount, tractable awning mount. Pull these pins, pull it out, which is required on clamshell tents like this. Once this tent opens, it actually hits the awning, so I got to pull it out. But yeah, that's the updates on my personal trailer. If you're here local in Colorado or surrounding area or passing through, this is always available to come take a look at, and I use it all the time. So that's kind of how I refine the design and the modifications and the accessories. Thanks again for watching. And, contact sales at Warhorse Overland if you have any questions. I'm always willing to run through things with you. Jump on a FaceTime call, Teams call, whatever. Go over certain stuff. So they're cut sheet trailers, and that, like, I don't modify the overall space capacity and the door sizes and things, but in terms of personalizing it to what you need, always available to do that. So, thanks so much.